This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 192, which is still really hard to believe, recorded on November 13th, 2014. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios, a very cold AverageGuy.tv studios. As winter has made its way to Bellevue, Nebraska, and of course we post the show with world-class show notes out at theaverageguy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, of course, you can always contact us, send us an email. Just send that to me, Jim at theaverageguy.tv. You can find me on Twitter at jcollison, and now you can call in those questions as well. I'd like to get a few of those. I haven't had much luck with that, but 402-478-8450. You can head over to the show notes, and that'll be clickable on your phone, and you can just give us a call. Love to have you call in your questions. And now Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network, which is expanding. If you haven't been out there in a while, take a look. You can find the links to this show and all the other great podcasts out at thegeeksnetwork.com. Join us live. Watch or listen live on YouTube, Spreaker, and now Mixlr, and all the navigation you'll ever need. Everything you need actually is over at theaverageguy.tv. All right, I have been in super travel mode over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Somehow I've gotten podcasts in. I've been out to Seattle for the Microsoft MVP conference, which was just a blast. If you want to hear more about that, head over to head over to surfacegeeks.net. I spent some time with Dave last night, Dave McCabe. Talking about that on Surface Geeks. I think it's 78 or so, and so we won't cover too much of that here, but a good time at MVP Summit. I picked up a Surface 3, which may or may not enter into the conversation here. But it's good to be back. It looks like with Thanksgiving and Christmas I'm home. We should get back on a regular podcast schedule, so thanks for listening. A couple great guests tonight. Excited, a brand new one, but before we introduce him, let me bring back on his second time back around. He's a glutton for punishment, and he survived the first time. John Greenaway. John, how are you?
I'm great, Jim. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We're going to catch up with you in just a second here, but I mean, you've been, since we saw you last, you've spent a little time moving around, right?
Yeah, so I had just gotten to California a little bit before I talked to you, and then we moved across town about 2 months ago when we bought a new house.
And where are you exactly in the Bay Area?
We're up in Alamo, which is just outside of Walnut Creek.
Most people beautiful up there.
It's great weather.
Awesome, yeah. I always, I grew up in that area, and we drive up there, Brown Hills, and just beautiful. So it's that's great. And BART, how far are you from the BART? There's a Walnut Creek BART station. Are you close to that at all?
Yep, I'm about a 5-minute drive to the BART. About a 35-minute train ride into the city here, and then a 1-minute walk to work. It's perfect commute.
That's awesome. Well, I know when I'm in the Bay Area, I know at least how to get to your place now. You pick me up at the BART station, and we can enjoy.
Come by anytime.
Quick meetup. So awesome. That's good to hear. Welcome back. And a new podcaster here, and actually, you've probably heard me talk about Mike a couple times. So Mike Weger, he's an Omaha podcaster and has his own podcast and stuff. I'll let him talk a little bit about that. But Mike, welcome to Home Gadget Geeks. Great to have you on.
Thank you very much. Good to be on.
Tell us a little bit about, just give us kind of the lowdown on your properties and where you podcast at and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, so I am running WegerTech.com, so it's WIEGER Tech.com. And it started out 5 years ago. My grandma and people like that needed tech help, and I said, well, I like making YouTube videos, and so let's make some tutorial videos. And then in the last year or so, I started doing open mic night. So it started out as a bring your questions to me and I'll talk about it. And so now I do the podcast as a tech news. People call in, we answer questions, we cover stuff like that, and starting to bring on some guests. And then I have a Uyghur Tech Solutions side, which is small business IT consulting here in the great city of Omaha. And so that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm also in law school right now. So.
Yeah, because if that's not enough,
right.
You're also engaged, and you're getting married here.
Yes, my beautiful fiance Hannah and I will be getting married in January, and so prepping up for that. And so these next 2 months are going to be probably the craziest 2 months that I'll have for the next few years at least.
Good luck keeping that podcast rolling, by the way.
Right. Yeah, it's already a struggle, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, there's nothing like a wedding or a child to ruin a podcast.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Well, actually, I was like, well, Hannah, we should start our own podcast, you and I, a little, husband-wife thing. So we'll see.
yeah,
how that
yeah.
goes.
I had Chris Pilon on the show 2-3 weeks ago, and he does Dadrenalin at dadrenalin.com. Mary, his wife, comes on from time to time, and she is just dynamite on the pod. She makes the show every time she's got a great voice. She has got tone. She's got the way she speaks is awesome, and she's just got a great outlook on life. And so that may not be a bad idea. Bring your wife on and do some give it. Is she techie at all?
She is becoming techie. I'm always proud of her whenever she fixes something on her own now. But no, she's in healthcare, very that cold caring type of person, loves taking care of people. So that's her niche. So, a lawyer and a healthcare person, that's going to be what we're dealing with.
You're going to be busy. And you've talked about trying to take that law degree and tie it into tech in some way. Tell me again how you plan, or what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I'm thinking some sort of IT forensics. And so if you look at some of the big accounting auditing firms, they do IT forensics, looking into IT systems and auditing them, making sure they're compliant and stuff like that, or doing the whole traditional patents, trademarks, copyrights, litigation, that sort of thing. So I still got a year and a half left, got some time to decide, but that's kind of the initial plan.
Maybe you'll be like our official legal correspondent. Because we always say as podcasters, we're not lawyers.
Right.
But you could be a lawyer.
But sadly, I'm not going to be able to say that for too much longer, so I don't have that scapegoat anymore. But
you're like, well, I'm not. Oh, actually, I am.
Right.
We'll be able to. So when we have matters of legal importance, especially around tech, we'll bring you in and make sure we get the right story. So Uyghur Tech, right? UyghurTech.com.
Yes.
And it's called Open Mic Night, MIKE. Open,
yes.
play on your name.
Open
Mic Night. It's general tech. It's a lot like what we do here. I've been listening to you the last couple of weeks as I ran into you. I added you to my list of podcasts that I listen to.
Awesome.
And, I've been changing them up. I kind of got tired of the ones I was listening to before, and it's been kind of nice to infuse some newer, smaller market, more friendly podcasts into the.
I've been doing the same exact thing. So
yeah, you made the list. So Open Mic Night as well. So welcome. Glad to have you out. John, let's jump right in with you. You alluded to your move here, and of course there's a lot of tech that goes into a move when you get things done. So talk through a little bit. You didn't move far, right? I mean, it wasn't. You were already out. Well, you'd already made the move from Boston to San Francisco, and then a temporary housing, and you'd move for. Talk about some of the just some of the tech stuff you went through as you made this move.
Yeah. So we were in the rental house for a good, I guess it was January through July. So we kind of fully settled. We weren't going for the true temp, rough it type situation. And the house I moved into actually was fully Cat 6 wired. It was spectacular. So there was a little closet down there for the server, for the router, for the cable modem. Everything was perfect. I tried to instill some of those requirements in our home search, but it was hard enough to find a place as it was. And so we ended up buying a house that was almost not ready at all to be moved into from a technology perspective. We were moving into a house that was owned and lived in by a 70-year-old woman for the past 20 years. So she didn't have things kind of up to snuff as the way I'd like to see them. But so, my wife, though, expects we get there on day one and everything's working and the cable's installed and the modem's going and the internet's all working. So all the usual stuff, right? Getting the cable installed, getting the router set up. It's kind of a big house, so we quickly found that we didn't have enough. I didn't have any repeaters or anything like that, so Wi-Fi kind of fell off the further you went out towards some of the bedrooms, and so I went through a process of setting up some Ethernet over power for part of it, and getting a repeater for another part of it, and hooking up the TiVos for home streaming, and finding a place for the home server and some of my other equipment. So.
And when you were going through the setup for the different, was there a process you kind of went through as far as like, when do I put a repeater in, and when do I use the power outlets as extenders, and am I going to start fishing cable through the walls? How do you kind of come to that conclusion?
Well, I use the TiVo setup, and the TiVo either requires their own Mocha setup that you can have, or wired Ethernet. So if you try to hook your TiVo up even to a repeater or a Wi-Fi extender, it's going to tell you it can't find the other devices on the system. So you're plugged into a Cat 6, but the traffic's going over the Wi-Fi, and so I don't know how it knows that. But at that point, when we realized we couldn't stream from the main box to some of the mini TiVos, for those people who have them, that's when I went out and bought a Zycel Powerline AV 500 setup that has kind of a main box that sits next to your router, and then the other 3 boxes I have throughout my house to get the closest thing to high speed that I can get without actually running the Cat 6. And in that particular case, right now I would love to bring someone in to run wire everywhere, because I'm just that kind of guy. I'd rather have it on the hard wire than using the Wi-Fi. And I've definitely found some issues with the power, that it doesn't keep up the speeds, especially for file transfers or big downloads. So my home server and my main kind of file store is actually just connected to that box. So it's not connected to my router. It's not near my cable modem. So downloading a 3 gigabyte file from Microsoft as an image or something like that has been horrendous.
Yeah.
So still working through those kind of things.
And so is the plan at this point? I mean, are you really thinking for long term, you're just probably going to end up wiring or at least running some? Well, I should ask this question first. Any major renovations that need to be done where it makes sense to cable when you're going through there?
No, nothing. I mean, the house is actually in great shape. It's a 20-year-old house. Back in Boston, I actually ran my own. I had access to my basement. I had access to my attic. So I bought the big, 1,000-foot box, and I ran pairs everywhere. I did fully redundant. To get from my basement to my chimney back in to my attic back in Boston, I ran up the furnace chimney stack, which worked just fine. I have no such luck here. We're in a 2-story house, and there's a crawl space below, and there's a again, part of a crawl type attic above, and I'm not going to be able to do it myself, so I've got to hire somebody.
So you got a little work to do to get those cables fished. You talk about running your own, and Mike, I'm going to ask you about this too. One of the things, I'd always run my own, but I'm always intimidated by the ends, right? Of getting those ends done. John, when you're doing it, any tips or tricks? Because I assume you had to make you had the equipment to make the ends. Is that? How do you walk me through that?
Yeah, I mean, I bought a little toolkit that kind of has the instructions. I followed them. I think I've terminated probably 100 wires over the past 5 years, and I've probably had 2 or 3 that I screwed up. And then I actually have a little tester that you just plug both ends into this tester, and it'll tell you if all 8 wires are fully connected in the right way.
Its colors matter, right? It's got to be like brown, white, brown, green, orange. That matters, right?
Yeah, and the instructions come with, I think there's an A setup and a B setup, and I always follow, I don't know which one is the standard, but yeah, you just got to watch for the blue, orange, brown, and green, and whether it's striped or solid, and line them up, stick the cap on, and put it in the crimper. It really is much easier than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, so and then you just crimp it, and it cuts the ends off for you, and you're kind of good to go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mike, have you in your tech stuff? Have you run wire for anybody? Or do you go to that level?
I've done it twice before. For actually at my parents' house, they have Ethernet ports in their wall. Their house is new enough, but if something gets tugged in the basement, it'll actually pull that away from the back, and so I've had to redo a few of those. And so you get these really tight wires. You think they'd put some slack in, but they don't. But the one question I actually had for John was, on those power line adapters, I've heard things about if you are crossing breaker switches, so if you're going from one room to a different room that's on a different breaker, it can cause some problems. Have you run into that at all, or?
I haven't. Like I said, I'm getting nowhere near the speeds they promise. But I've read about it, and I understand that it can actually it can go through the breaker using kind of impedance instead of a direct connection. Okay. Again, I'm actually an electrical engineer by training a long time ago, and when I was in the Air Force. But that's the extent I can kind of address that one.
Gotcha.
And Lopta's saying in chat, it's easier to punch down, and I've done some punch down work where you're coming in, into a wall outlet, and you just
Mm-hmm.
the punch down on the back has got all the cables labeled for you what it wants, and then you put those in the little tool and just
Yep.
and you put those in. I've done that. I've just always been super intimidated by the termination ends, and my wife or my son's wife's father, I guess I don't know I don't know what that is, but he's so good at it. He strips it off and he just spins it with his fingers like this, and then just puts the end on it somehow, and he gets it. He's done so many of these. He just gets it right, like the first time, and so now I've kind of resorted. Hey, Keith, can you make me a cable? And he's got all the tools, and he just does it so much. So, are you thinking then at some point you're just going to pay somebody to run all that cable for you?
I think I will. I mean, I think we have a series of projects that my wife and I are both kind of negotiating on for each of us, and that's kind of near the top of my list. We're going to be in this house for a while, and I'd love to just get it so that I don't have to worry about those other kind of nuances of the power line or Mocha or even the Wi-Fi. Like, the Wi-Fi setup, I'll always use it for my mobile devices, but I've always really preferred especially because I am streaming video. I have all my video, pictures, music down in the basement and the server, and I can get any of that to my TiVo or any of my TVs or the mobile devices if I want it. And I just like the fact that I can do it pretty quickly.
So you're in a new place and you got new opportunities for home automation, right? And we are on the early days of some really good home automation stuff that's coming up. I mean, we've been talking about this as tech guys for a long time, but it's just finally getting to that point where it's pretty good. What are you hoping to install when you're already in, but what have you put in so far, and what are you hoping to put in?
Yeah, so far, I've definitely been taking it slow. I've been started off maybe a year ago, or I don't know whenever they started, but I started listening to Richard Gunther's DMZ podcast, Home On, and I've been listening from the beginning. I knew I was moving. I knew I was in a temporary house. I couldn't do any of this stuff, and so getting into the new house, I really kind of started digging around for what projects would make the most sense, and in particular, I think those of us in the core demographic are thinking about family and life acceptance factor. But we had a couple of immediate issues. The first was the light switch in the pantry just wasn't working, and I told my wife, I'm just going to put in a straight up plain old motion sensor. So you go in there, you're going to be pulling out cans or bottles, or the kids go in and they, I have twin 3-year-olds, they can't even reach the switch barely. So so they can go in there and get themselves a snack. The light will go off 45 seconds later, and no energy's wasted, and no one needs to touch a switch while they're cooking or stuff like that. That was the first immediate one. Again, my wife was happy with that. We also have a 15-year-old dog who's getting up there, and to be honest, we say she's kind of losing it a little bit, but so she sleeps in the family room, and that used to be just fine, but now we found that she has anxiety. So she can't sleep in the dark, especially in a couple of new homes when you're that old as a dog. So I got myself a Philips Hue setup with the 3 bulbs and the hub, and I have that set up to go on at dusk and stay on until 5:30 or 6 in the morning for the dog. And again, really easy sell on the budgetary front to keep the dog happy and make sure she's not walking around the house barking at 2 o'clock in the morning when she gets anxious because the lights are out.
That's a good thing. That keeps you from getting grumpy.
Yeah. And the last thing I've done so far is the front of my house actually was on outdoor light timer, and it had both a timer portion and a photoelectric sensor portion. But the woman who was living there had it essentially coming on. The photoelectric part of it somehow gets set off an hour and a half before actual dusk every night, and the lights were staying on all, again 3 or 4 or 5 kind of outdoor lights that some of them are actually not low voltage. Were staying on for the entire night through probably an hour and a half after sunrise in the morning, and I said, you know what, I don't know how much this is costing me, but I'd rather put something in. So I actually made the jump and got an Insteon outdoor module. And I hooked that up to the main switch for those 5 lights. I have the Insteon hub as part of a kit I bought to get this stuff going. and I have that turning on at dusk, which works perfectly, and then going off around 9 o'clock every night. And the only limitation we have is sometimes, especially nights like this, I might get home after 9. Lights are, it's kind of a long driveway and a dark area. There's only 2 houses back in this little neighborhood, and I really want to add a sensor to it so that after 9, someone drives back or someone walks back and is trying to break into my window. At least all the lights are coming on to draw attention and let us know about that. So those are the things that I've started so far. The next one that's kind of queued up is with some of the Insteon starter kit stuff that I got. Again, we have 2 3-year-olds and a 6-year-old that are on an entirely different floor from us now in a new house they don't know that well yet, or they're getting to know. And we've been leaving all of our hallway lights and the stairwell lights on. They're on dimmers, so they're fairly low, but from the time we go to bed until first thing in the morning. So I think I'm going to put a couple of Insteon dimmer switches into the wall on a sensor, so that between the hours of 10 and 8 in the morning, that if the kids get up and walk into the stairwell, or if we walk down the hallway, those will just pop on to 25%, enough to get around, but they're not burning all night long, even at the low packs they're probably at. So, and so I'm literally just breaking into all of this, but I figured I would kind of share some of these early thoughts with the group, and there's a bunch of things in the queue beyond that, looking or adding those motion sensors, and then thinking about thermostats, or I think Dave McCabe uses SmartThings, right? So he's commented about he's dropped one of those tags in his wife's backpack or whatever, and he knows when she's getting within a half mile of home, and he can clean up the mess.
Well, he wouldn't say it that way. He's losing that thing all the time, and she wants to be able to find it in the house. So so things like that are kind of on the longer term goals, and for now just kind of breaking into it and figuring things out. I had actually exchanged some messages with Richard Gunther from Home On a couple of weeks back. And he's very accessible, by the way. He's a guy that.
Oh yeah, he's great.
If you're into home automation, that's really the show to go to.
Yeah, so I was actually looking at. I was trying to find a single hub that would serve all worlds, and I kind of dove into Insteon because I liked the fact that it had both a wireless and a wired component. That's a theme with me, I guess. But it's a big house, and I was concerned that with just a radio only, like a Z-Wave or a Zigbee, that it might not hit some of the further out lights. But I was looking at hubs, and I don't know if you've heard of the Revolve. It was gaining some popularity. It was a little more expensive, but had I think 7 or 8 different radios in it. And it turns out Nest just bought them, and basically just took it off the market. It was a kind of an acqui-hire. They were looking to bring the expertise inside of Nest for all this kind of interconnectedness, and their device, which was relatively well received and highly reviewed, just took it off the market the next day. They weren't selling anymore. So I'm glad I didn't buy it, but I'm kind of hesitant. I'm kind of okay with Hue and Insteon, and I'll figure out the rest later.
Yeah, and it's early days. You're going to buy stuff that's going to not be supported after a certain length of time. It's just going to happen. Yeah. Mike, have you, you're getting ready to move yourself here, but do you mess much with the home automation stuff? Do you use any of that? You seem like a guy who would maybe be into that.
Probably once I have a full-time career with a paying job, I might get into it a little bit more.
It's expensive.
But it is. The one thing I like to mess around with is I have a Raspberry Pi, and so I like to see what all I can do with that little computer. And so really the only thing I've done with it so far is it's a VPN into my home, and then I can control my computer when I'm away. And I have some stuff plugged into my computer, like speakers and a TV that I can access. But, being an Apple guy and right now not having much money in it anyway, I think I'm going to wait and see what they come out with HomeKit and the new Apple TV. The rumors are that we didn't see a new Apple TV this year because they're going to wait, and the Apple TV is going to be integral in the whole HomeKit, home automation sphere. And so I've been wanting to get into some Hue lights and stuff like that, but I haven't tried too many of them out right now. But definitely just an exciting new era, though, of technology, especially when you start to see things like the Amazon Echo and things like that, things that, any part of home automation that makes your home smarter is it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've got Echo in the show notes, so let's not dig into it yet. I'm going to ask you guys some questions here at the end of the show around the Echo. It's kind of cool. I admit I don't have a lot of automation. I do have this fancy remote control that turns these studio lights on and off. That's $15 at Home Depot to this.
Ooh, I might be able. I can even afford that.
You
I
can
might
probably
be able,
afford
yeah.
that. Or this is handy. Is these lights sit on the other side of the computer, and sometimes I sit down and I get working, and it's too much work to get up and walk around.
Oh, it is.
So I'm just turn it on.
Well, and you're all head butted in, and you got to take your your phone.
Earbuds out and those kinds of things.
Exactly.
So, John, I have not been bitten by the home automation bug. I mentioned too, we're going to move in a couple years, and that may be the perfect time. Although my wife is really good at breaking technology, so I'm just not sure. The wife, she likes it just to work, so we're kind of good with flipping light switches on and off at this point. But there's some really cool applications. I mean, I think down to the doggy light, that's super important, right? I mean, you got to get that kind of just right to. Otherwise, the dog's up barking, and you don't get any sleep, and you get grumpy, and those kinds of things. So
I've definitely tried to play the angles, and not that kind of sounds like I'm scheming a little bit, but I've definitely tried to go with the approach to address real issues that are real for her as well. Again, the dog concerns, the kid's safety, the front porch area. I also did buy, again, along that same theme, I bought 2 Insteon outdoor cameras. Have not yet installed them. I've had them for 2 months, and that kind of tells you where life's taken us the last few months. But I bought these cameras because the house we bought does have a pool. It's an in-ground pool that's out back, and obviously there's the safety fence and all that. But I want to know if there's ever motion out there outside of particular hours, and I got to figure out how to make that thing text me or give me some type of buzz, let me know what's going on. And so I've tried to prioritize on the things that I think she'll find most useful. But you're right, it has to work. I've even been running a test to some extent for that hallway setup that I'm going to try to do next, which is I have a sensor just set up sitting on top of the side table in our family room. And when we walk in at night to watch television, and this is just kind of a test for her, so she'll see how it works when I do the hallways and the stairwell. We walk in there, one of the standing lamps goes up to 25 or 30%, just so you can see your way around, find the remote, and turn the other light switches on. And I'm kind of showing her, this is the way it's going to work at 4 o'clock in the morning. When we walk out of our room, all those hallway lights will just go up to 25, so you can get your way around. And she's slowly, falling into, this might make some sense. Her main concerns, and just to share it with the audience and maybe some comments, is what about, down the road, if we were to sell this house sooner than we think we might? If we sell it in 3 to 5 years versus in 10 or 15 years, and how will that technology be received by someone maybe buying it who's not as savvy or doesn't want to have a hub connected to the router and hope that it works, that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's something to think about. I mean, you're going to load this house with all this tech, and some of it you can't take with you.
Right.
It's kind of you're not going to be able to rip all that stuff out of the walls. And so that definitely comes into consideration. One of the things you mentioned, you guys don't have basements like we do here out in the Midwest, where you can come down and do a lot in your basement. Yeah. And of course in California that's just a crawl space for the most part. So that was a hard thing for me to get used to coming out to the Midwest, is everybody had basements. It's like, what are these things?
Tornado protection.
It's all good. So, do you have, John? So, what else are you looking at then? You'd mentioned a few future projects. Of course, some of the more popular stuff. Are you thinking about thermostats and that kind of stuff in the future?
Yeah, that's on the list. I actually did have one of those in Boston. To talk about something that you don't take with you, right? I actually had what was back then an industrial. This is pre-Nest. I got this maybe 1.5 years or 2 years before Nest even came out. It was more for an industrial or a rental environment. That I even forget that. I think it's called Prolifix was the brand name. And I had those. It worked okay. It wasn't as well connected as the ones are today. The big thing for me, and I found in the houses I lived in Massachusetts and also here, is that the heat settings from room to room, even though they're on the same thermostat and on the same furnace or air conditioning, are never done right. So I'm waiting to really find that automated thermostat that has multiple temperature sensors that you can either average or go lowest common denominator, or some approach to helping make sure that everyone's comfortable, or some mix of some degree of less comfort. as opposed to one room being totally hot and one being totally cold, and you can't figure out why that is. And you're crawling on your crawl space looking at dampers and trying to make other adjustments on the backside as opposed to just averaging the temperature of the rooms, determining whether it goes off or on. So I'm gonna sit that one out a little bit, I think.
Now, wouldn't that be cool to have a damper system with those sensors that it automatically adjusts the dampers based on what it's, it's so talk about a learning thermostat.
Yeah.
The hub would control it, and then with these sensors, you'd be like, oh, I know this. That what if I turn this damper, what happens to the sensor on that end, and it learns exactly what it needs to do to get the temperatures just right, and then from then on out, it keeps it consistent. God, that would be awesome.
I've actually read that there are. And so when I was actually referring to dampers, I'm actually talking about, along the metal pipe, there are sometimes like handles that will control the flow through.
Yeah.
But I've also read that there are essentially registers. If you're talking about forced heat or forced hot air or forced cool air, there are registers that will open or close based on a sensor they're tied to. I don't know how smart they are yet, or if it's kind of a one size fits all for the room. But I think those exist. I think it'll be a couple of years until everything gets merged together within the the Nest or similar Honeywell type environment.
Have you guys played at all with the Ecobee? I don't know if I'm saying it right. Ecobee 3. It's a new smart thermostat, and it's meant for a house with multiple rooms. And so you put these sensors all over, and so it just kind of like what you said. It takes the average, or it looks into multiple different rooms. And I just heard about it on I think Mac Geek Gab on that podcast. But it seems to be a little more friendly for the house environment instead of an apartment.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
Ecobee, ECOBEE.com.
Yeah.
Their phrase is the smarter Wi-Fi thermostat with remote sensors for homes with more than one room.
Okay, well there you go.
Boy, is that a shot at the Nest or what?
I've been following the Nest, and some of the biggest complaints about the Nest are the lack of remote sensors to help control it.
Yeah, no, and this has so $249 for the unit plus a sensor. So about the same as they're going to compete with Nest, right? They're going to try and be right at the same price since Nest is at the price point on those things for sure. Ordinary. Let's see if I get some.
I think you could buy a kit with about 3 sensors, and then you pay for more than that. That's what I remember hearing somewhere.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
Interesting. Well, cool. Nah. Mike, nice job. That's a good. I've not heard of them. And
thank you.
We have a lot of home automation stuff flowing through here, so that's pretty cool. That's why we bring different people on the podcast, right?
Well, we all listen to all those different podcasts, and you pick up a little bit from each one and bring it all together.
Podcasting is the beginning of the Borg, right?
Right. Oh, yes. Definitely is. You put us all together, and we could be. Yeah.
You will listen to a podcast. You will be assimilated. So no, pretty cool. John, anything else as far as thermostats? Any other high tech stuff you're looking at in the house?
That's kind of it for now. I'm not that interested in the locks. I'm not. I guess the locks are kind of popular. Some people buy those like a vibration sensor. I've heard people put those things on their dryers to tell when the dryer's done. I got a buzzer for that, so I'm okay with that. The only other thing in my house right now that's related to home automation, and it probably will take a little more time, is the security system. The house actually has a security system built in that I guess, again, the woman we bought from used 10 years ago and has not had service with since. But I was able to get it up and working as far as the door sensors go. I put some batteries back in them, and so the main box chimes when kids' doors or kids' windows open up, and so we know what's going on. But I went to I got my home owner's insurance when I got the mortgage, and they give you a great discount if you have a security system, but at least the companies I'm working with won't give you that discount unless you're paying the $30-40 a month for the monitoring. And by the time you net the $480 a year out with the discount you're getting on the home, it's barely worth it, except for potentially feeling better or more secure about it. But I'd much rather have a system where if the door opens up, something vibrates on my phone and tells me the door is open. And obviously, if that's happening at 3 o'clock in the morning, I should be able to tap a button and call 911 or get ready to call 911 or something like that. So I think it's a little while till the modern technology catches up with the insurance market, as well as obviously the monitoring services and things like that. So
it's not cheap. I mean, you start looking at some of these units, and you do got to do the math at some point and say, is this really? I mean, power is expensive in California. It's very expensive out on the East Coast, and so some of those power saving things make sense. You bring them here to the Midwest, and we're getting worse. It's getting more expensive here, but it's still fairly inexpensive. So you start, kind of going, well, and then do I want to be eco-friendly or not eco-friendly, and those kinds of things. So it's always a toss-up with money. Mike, when you move here, are you thinking about you're moving out of where you're going? You're moving into a different place, right?
Yeah, I'm moving into where my fiance lives now, so her apartment. So
so it's an apartment. So not much tech. You're not going to do much there.
No, not much yet. Looking forward to the first house, but not too much tech side. But what I think is interesting is that obviously the home automation and home security market has gotten so big that I don't know, John, where if it's prominent where you're at, but here where we're at, the cable companies, Cox Communications, where we're at here, is now offering home automation and home security in the form of checking an app and locks on the doors and cameras and turning off TVs. And I just thought that they were probably one of the last companies I would have thought. I guess I never would have thought of a cable company getting into home automation. But I think people are trying to hop in and get the money when they can. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know for sure here Verizon is the phone company, and they certainly, I think Comcast as well as the cable company, they both have services. I think, like at least a lot of us in this crowd here, I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer to the extent I can.
Right.
And I look at I have looked into the Verizon offering, and by the time you actually do have to pay for a lot of the equipment install, and then you are paying the extra $40-50 a month. Most of that, at least I'd say I can do myself, and mainly because I like to fool around with it, or maybe because it's just I think it's more efficient in the long run. That's kind of the way I'm hoping to go, but you never know.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah, well, we'll wrap that on kind of the home automation. John, great to catch up on a lot of those things. A move, we do from time to time. Every time I take a vacation, I come back and do a vacation tech episode where we talk about all the tech you use on vacation, right? Because there's tons of tech now that we haul with us. Although my tech, my tech gadgets, the number of gadgets I took, swelled probably in about 2009, 2010 when you had everything, and then lately. Yeah, it's going back down to just a few things, the very, very important things. But having you on, we were thinking about what we're going to talk about, and it was just a great opportunity to say, man, in a move, you've got some unique, and especially now, you've got some unique considerations to think about in not only what you take with you from a tech standpoint. You'd mentioned home security, home automation, pool security, which is a whole different realm of, because you're trying to keep people safe when they're in and when they're out, and then you're talking about hours, right? Schedules. You want to know, hey, during, pretty much from about 6 p.m. till about 10 a.m., that thing should be quiet, right? There should be nobody out there. And do you have one of those automated covers that go over it as well?
No, the type of pool we have doesn't really allow for that. So we kind of have a double gating system. We've got the whole entire property gated, and then the pool itself is closed off from access to the kids or, again, anyone coming through. We're not really in a true traditional neighborhood. We're kind of set into the hills, as things go up there, Jim. So,
it's nice up there.
So we're not gonna have people yard hopping across the neighborhood, diving in and out of pools and that type of thing. But just for me, it is more for the kids. I want to make sure that they don't sneak out a side door when we're not watching and make their way down there. So.
Yeah. No, it's good. You got to be worried about that. Young kids, they're adventurous. We had a pool when we first moved in here, and at the time, it was 15 years ago, and my youngest was 2, and we had to worry about those things. And we went old school with a chain link fence and a lock, and that kind of worked for a while. I was looking 15 years ago. We didn't have all that stuff, but they had pool sensors and some of those kinds of things. Alarms that would go off if it sensed movement in the water and those kinds of things. But we eventually got rid of the pool. It was a doughboy, above ground. We got rid of the pool, redid the deck, and I'm kind of glad. Pools are great. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. And where you're at there in the Walnut Creek area, you're going to get perfect weather for it. It's just
it's definitely your perfect 10 months out of the year, and now we're going to go into rainy season. And as you said, the hills are brown for 10 months, and then I guess March, April, May they're green for a couple of weeks, and then they put the goats out to chew up the grass. So.
That's right. It's beautiful.
Jim, you commented on one thing I wanted to add context to that I forgot to mention is that for both the Insteon equipment I have and the Philips Hue, I do have the timers set up, and for the most part, at least on the dusk part of it, I've got them set to turn on at dusk. Now, what's interesting, though, is Philips requires you to use if then that. So there's no built-in automation to the Philips Hue system that says turn on at dusk, and it knows your zip code and therefore what time of day is dusk. Whereas Insteon, right in the hub, you can set the program to say turn on at dusk. The only drawback, and again, speaking about family acceptance factors, my wife said, the one that's inside the house, the Philips, the doggy light in the television room, in her view, it doesn't come on. It maybe comes on 15 minutes late. The sun's just probably over the horizon. It's just getting a little dark inside. She'd rather be able to have me set it to say dusk minus 15 minutes, but there's no option for that. So again, just to talk to the audience about how things work and how much you can automate versus kind of you got to go with whatever's available. That was a limitation that obviously hopefully they can fix if people complain about it. But but on the outside lights, the Insteon lights that are just coming on when Insteon says it's dusk, and they're usually within a minute or two of each other, which is pretty impressive, I guess. But those are less important. Like it's still kind of a little bit light outside the house, even when the sun's over the horizon. So that you commented on scheduling and automation, and I kind of thought about that.
Is that based on time or actually light?
No, it's based on time of day.
Okay. So, right. So they're projecting like sunset is going to be at this time, and so we're going to do it at this moment. And
exactly.
Okay.
As opposed to those photoelectric sensors that the prior owner had that just weren't reliable. They were coming on an hour and a half too early and staying an hour and a half too late because they were hidden by bushes or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that can have benefits and drawbacks. Those they were probably old units. Newer ones probably do a little bit better with that kind of stuff if they're out in the open. So, no, very cool. And I want to add to this home automation discussion this idea of the Amazon Echo. Mike, you mentioned that in your podcast on Tuesday that came out. I was supposed to be on that show, and I had some stuff at work came up, and I'm going to be on next Tuesday, so I'll make that up to you. So I apologize for that. But you had mentioned the Echo. I was listening to that yesterday on my way into work, and it's very interesting because I just got that notification like everybody else did. Hey, the Amazon Echo. John, have you know what we're talking about? Have you seen the Echo yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got that notification. Prime members, it's $99. You watch that cheesy video, which is really funny. In fact, a couple of the guys, the listeners, they want our family here. They want the Collison family to reenact that commercial when we get the Echo. We signed up for it. Who knows if anybody's actually going to get that thing? I mean, this is the weird thing. No delivery date. No, you just put your name on a list. It's like, well, we'll kind of tell you when it's ready. I assume we've probably all watched the video, and we kind of know what it does. I want to have a quick discussion around is this idea of voice-activated or voice-automated equipment really going to work? We've had Siri, we've had Cortana now on the Windows Phone. Samsung's got some version. This is kind of Android's kind of weak on voice-activated stuff or voice, talking back to you. Mike, I want to throw it over to you. You've seen that. You're a young guy. You're a millennial. You live in this generation. You're okay with that. But we've been doing voice for 10 years now, and it's still kind of hokey and clunky and not very good. Do you have any hope that Amazon's going to get this right, or is this thing going to come out and disappoint? It's $100.
Right.
Right?
The only thing I think that Amazon has going for them with this specific product is that they're focusing it on being always in the home. I think when we start to criticize Siri and Cortana and all these things, it's because whenever we're using it, we're out and about. So first of all, usually we're requiring or relying on your cell network being strong so you can connect to the internet. And two, you're around a lot of people and a lot of noise. Whereas if it's in the home setting all the time, it's going to be you, your family, you know who's there, and it's going to a little more controlled environment, Wi-Fi always, and stuff like that. So I think it'll start out being a little bit better because honestly, the one time I use Siri is when I'm sitting on my couch or I'm in my room right now. and I don't use it too much when I'm out and about because it's just too unreliable. And so the one new feature that I'm sure Cortana's had it for a while, but now Siri has it where when you plug into power, I can just say, "Hey Siri" from anywhere, and it'll light up. I don't have to press the button. And I've gotten to really like that. It's how I set my alarms. I say, "Hey Siri, wake me up at this time," because it's plugged into power. And so it's interesting. I think that's something that's always listening would be interesting, and I would like it. And like you said, you signed up. But the one thing I think about is that it's going to scare the mass majority of people. Having something in your house that's always listening, that just sounds like one of those doomsday movies from a while back of technology and the big brother always listening in. And so I think that it'll be interesting that Amazon did it and not Google and not Apple and not anyone else. I think it was a big surprise that Amazon did it. And so I'll be interested to see if people actually trust the device. I think trusting is the number one thing that's going to make or break this product, is because it is scary to have someone that's always listening to you in your home.
Well, don't you think because it's coming from a retail operation that's even sketchier? That, when you think about, like, I would want it to come from Google or those guys, because they're wanting to sell me stuff, right? That's how Amazon makes money. They want to sell me, and I guess Google does too, right? They want to serve the right ads to you.
Right.
Which is interesting. Well, maybe if it come from Google, it would be like you'd say, "Hey Google, tell me the weather," and it'd be like, "The weather in Bellevue today is." We'll tell you right after this message.
Or it's going to be 16 degrees. By the way, you know what's really good for 16-degree weather? A big, a set of gloves or a new coat. How about we head on over to Amazon and take a look?
Can I have some? And maybe now with Amazon, it'll say, do you have gloves?
Right.
And, no, I need a set. And like, we can dispatch a pair of gloves to you in 25 minutes. As a
drone will arrive on your front porch.
Well, it's not too far-fetched. I mean, think about that.
Not.
When you think they could make shopping suggestions. Of course, they want to take your shopping list. That's a big feature that they're doing on there. Hey, we add milk to my shopping list, and it puts it on there. I have a feeling it's going to prompt you then, hey, we've got all this stuff. Can we just ship it to you?
Right.
Don't you think that's coming next?
Well, notice they left all of that out, though, of the video. No ordering, no suggestions, nothing like that was in the video.
The store is not even in the video. The store is nowhere close.
At all.
Yeah.
And that's going to be their one biggest thing. Why was, the Fire Phone that they just released, their previous product, what was the big selling point of that? Why did they want it out there? Well, it connected you to Amazon. Everything, the new Firefly feature where you could point it at anything and it would direct you back to Amazon, it gets you back in their ecosystem. And I'm sure, that's what Amazon does. Of course, their products are going to take you all back to Amazon. But
John, any thoughts as we think about home automation? Have you looked at this? Attractive for you at all in what you guys do?
Marginally, I'd say. I actually do use my voice recognition on my Android quite a bit. Mostly while on mobile, though. So, in contrast to maybe what Mike said, I'm using it to jump in my car, say, "Okay, Google, navigate to home," or navigate to work. Mainly just so I can work around traffic if I need to. Although I gotta say, my 6-year-old is obsessed with asking Google questions. So, we trained him well before leaving the East Coast. He's a Boston Red Sox and a Patriots fan, and every day during the seasons, he'll get on there, tap the button, and say, "What's the Red Sox score today?" So, thinking about the kids coming up in the, I don't know what the post-millennial generation is, but, it's going to be second nature to them. I mean, I'm a techie, and I try to keep my kids away from tech as long as possible, but now that he's in kindergarten, he's playing with kids whose brothers have a Wii or an Xbox, and, he's asking to borrow my phone or my wife's phone. Like, literally, he asked to borrow our phone so much that I'm going to take one of my old phones and put up a couple games on it that he plays and give it to him. In the next couple weeks, so that, to be honest, I don't want him dropping this and breaking it and having me out of commission for 2 weeks. But as far as the voice stuff goes, I can see down the road using more around the house. I did see right around when the Moto 360 came out, there were some demos on YouTube of somebody who had connected his home automation to his watch, and he would come home and say, turn on the television, dim this light to 50%. And I don't know what back end he was using from a software perspective, but clearly people will be working on that. Part of it, though, I think just because it's there doesn't mean you have to use it. There are easier ways to do things.
Yeah, right on. That's a good statement.
And along those lines of, you said, your kids and stuff like that, how kids love to do the asking. I've noticed that, too, with, I'd say, about the 60 to 65 plus age range of people. Because for me, my main frustration is when I tell Siri to do something and she doesn't get it right, I'm like, man, I could have done this faster if I'd have just typed it out. But the older demographic is almost so loving of Siri because they couldn't have done it faster by typing it in because they might not even know how to do it with their device. And so I've noticed a lot of older people using Siri all the time and not getting frustrated with it because honestly for them it's better than nothing and it's better than what they could have done without Siri. And so I think voice might be a really good thing for, first of all, kids and for that older demographic. You know, it brings everyone into tech and it kind of gets them a generation that might not have even considered using an iPhone, you know, or an Android phone or an Amazon product. Now that they can just talk to the device and not have to learn how to touch it and use it, if they can just talk naturally to it like they would their, you know, their nephew or anything like that, then I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll bring in a lot more people. But the interesting age range for me is the 16 to 55 age range where we know how to use technology and is it actually going to be faster for us, easier for us? Is it going to provide some benefit that we wouldn't have had before?
Yeah, you got to be careful, Mike. You just included us in that middle group, but for a while I thought you were going to like put us into the 65 plus crowd.
Oh no. Well, that's right.
He knows better than that. I always joke that I'm the youngest millennial or the oldest millennial you'll ever meet because I don't act like my generation at all. I act more like Mike's generation, the millennials, just because I stay up on so much of the technology. You know, I've got this thought, and when we were talking, you know, I have the privilege at Gallup of access to Vint Cerf for a day or two every year, which is awesome. In the last 2 years, I've gotten to drive around with them, so I get to have these really interesting conversations that, because I spend, you know, a couple hours, maybe 3, 4, 5 hours with them a day, taking them places, and so I get this unique opportunity to talk to him. Of course, Vint Cerf is the father of the internet, one of the guys that helped develop it, and he's kind of got to watch this whole thing grow into an amazing tool that people are using. I just can't imagine what that feels like, that your invention is used by most of the world type deal, right? It's in space, it goes to Mars. I mean, it's crazy. So we were talking about voice recognition and using voice commands, and I really think that we won't make any progress until our devices get personalities. I think we still find that talking to a computer, remember the old Star Trek, and they would, you know, working, you know, that was a lousy computer to talk to. That was the one, you know, even though that was Gene Roddenberry's wife that did the voice for that computer, it was still a little stiff, right? And even in the next generation of Star Trek, when they did it, that computer was still awkward, right? The most comfortable computer that I know to talk to now is Jarvis, right? Who's in Iron Man, because Jarvis has a personality, right? And he knows Tony. He knows what to say. It's like talking to a person, not a machine. And I just don't think until our machines get to know us and truly understand our tendencies and our patterns and what we like. So I want to say, I'm on the way home, and I want to say, hey, we'll just use Jarvis. Hey, Jarvis, can you order some Chinese food for me from Imperial Palace? And Jarvis would say, would you like your regular, or do you want me to order you something different this time? And it would, you know, I think that's what makes this kind of technology actually work. I think until we get to that point, I think we're a ways away from it. Until we get to that point, I think these kinds of technologies are just going to kind of be clunky and gadgety and not as helpful, except for the things, John, like you talked about, navigate, hey Google, navigate home or navigate to work. That kind of stuff works, but I think because fiction or science fiction always is out ahead of fact or of what it's going to actually be. I mean, think of some of the things we saw in the 60s and 70s and 80s in science fiction that are available now. When we have, you know, those old Star Treks, when we were watching those in the 90s, and they had these little devices in their hands, and they were touching things on it, right? And they were always doing. You never saw the screen, right? Those are our tablets today, right? We didn't have those back then, but they've created those today. Anyways. So I'd like to see some personality, or I think personality is going to have to come in where these devices feel more like people, don't you think?
Yeah, it kind of looked like Echo had a little bit of a personality. The way she talked, that was my first little inkling of a computer with a.
Gotta be faked though. That's gotta be faked.
Oh, it is, and you know it
Yeah.
is, and that's why it's not an actual product yet and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I also want to, they're commenting in the chat. I want to go back and correct you. I didn't want to give the impression that people 65 age and up or 55 don't use technology. But when I'm doing my job at Uyghur Tech, and the whole reason I started is because I want everyone to use technology, and I think that there is a lot of people out there that are scared to use it. They don't want to really jump into it. They feel stupid sometimes when they have to ask a question, and so I think anything to broaden the usage of technology, make it easier for people and get people into, I think is a good thing. So that was my whole point with that. But
Yeah, no, don't bend to the chat room, Mike. Don't worry about those guys. They get a little grumpy out there.
Yeah.
And
my mom is 62, just turned 63, and she's totally as you described. She's does the bare minimum because she's afraid she's going to break something or do something wrong, or spend $5,000 in service charges. So yeah, no, you got it right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I put my name on the list just to kind of see if I'll make the lottery system. And I don't know how they're going to choose it or how that's going to get, or even when they're going to. They've been very cryptic about this. It'll be fun. Ironically, that's probably the wrong use of that word. Also, my wife, when I was showing her this in the Facebook group, which she's a part of. So if you go to facebook.com/group/theaverageguy.tv, I think we'll get you there. Or just head out to theaverageguy.tv and click on the link. In our Facebook group, somebody asked, I think it was Tim Black, asked the question, who the heck would use this? And so we watched the video, and my wife was like, I'll use that for sure. I mean, she loves the idea. We're always running out of stuff with the kids, and she loves the idea of just being able to say, hey, whatever. And what's cool about this is it doesn't have to be hey Siri, or it doesn't have to be hey Google, or it doesn't have to be, hey Cortana. You can change that name, and then I'd love it in the mornings. I'm making the kids lunches and we run out of whatever, and I'll just say, hey, add applesauce to the list of things that we need to pick up for school lunches. If it works that way, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I can see doing music, Jim. I can see like coming home for the day and you walk in your house. You don't have to go up to turn anything on, or play me the Jack Johnson Pandora channel, or play me 80s music, or that type of thing. Just to hands-free. You don't have to worry about but anything requiring either a back and forth or a purchase commitment or research, it's not going to replace you sitting in front of the computer and doing some of that.
Yeah. Although in our kitchen, what would be awesome is that so we say hey, add these things to the list, and during the day it's doing it. And when Sarah is out, she could then say, hey, bring up my shopping list. And the phone would bring up the shopping list and have that all set. So, that's pretty cool. I think there's some pretty cool technology there. I think we're still a ways off from it being a reality. I'm not thinking they're going to be out till after Christmas. I just can't see that. I don't know. Either you guys have any inside thought on that before or after Christmas? Who will take the over? Who's going to take the under?
I'll take before Christmas, only because I just requested it and it said you might get it in the next coming weeks. So I'd say coming weeks as in,
All right.
7-8 weeks. So maybe a little more. But if anything, I would pay $99 for. They really got me with the spelling. I am a notoriously bad speller, and that would save me at least 10 minutes a day of going to Google and trying to figure out how to type a word or spell a word. And so for me alone, I mean, I was just like, oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think Amazon's smart enough to try to know they have to get this out before the holidays. So I'd probably take the under as well. But I wanted to comment. I don't know if you guys have seen the parodies. I think the parodies are
my gosh, yes.
Amazing.
I'll have to go. I have not seen them yet.
Oh, you have to watch it
a little bit later. My favorite part of the original video is when she's shouting at it, and he goes, "Honey, you don't have to shout at this. It can hear you. It's got these microphones, and it can hear you." And because when she started shouting, you know what I said? I'm like, you don't need to shout. I said that as she was doing it.
But if any of us actually said that to our significant other, it wouldn't have gone as well as it did in that video either.
No, he was pretty understanding, and she was too, and pretty cool. Well, Watch for the Echo. If you haven't been out to Amazon in a while, head out to Amazon now. They're advertising it on the front page, as well as the Amazon Fire Stick, which a bunch of us got in at $20, which is kind of the Chromecast competitor. And I think they're going to be trying that. So mine won't ship until January. I got in too late, so when they offered it for $20, they sold well into the month. I don't think those even release until early December here, but be interesting for $20. That's my kind of tech, right? To try out. $20 is easy to drop and pick up one of those Fire Sticks as well. So, speaking of Amazon, I will say thanks. We've had a great month. Christmas is coming up. Don't forget, in Canadian residents, if you're in Canada, we have the Average Guy Scholarship Fund links for you. Just go to theaverageguy.tv/Amazon or theaverageguy.tv/AmazonCA. Only use that in Canada. It won't work in the United States, so only use it in Canada. But John Zadler benefits from that, and then he'll buy some equipment, test it for us, come on the show, and talk about it. And, of course, we appreciate your generosity, and thanks for using the Amazon link when you are on Amazon purchasing. One of the things as I was traveling a bunch over the last couple weeks is I bought, and what I wanted to see is if I could get a pair of headphones like Bose or like Beats, although Beats doesn't really play in the noise canceling space like Bose does. So Bose has got these 125s mics. I think, did I hear you talking about them? You have those?
Yeah, I have the Quiet Comfort 15s, and so I don't know if those are still being sold. They're like 2 years old, so.
Yeah, pretty comfortable though for
amazing
noise canceling, right? As well. So when you travel,
my favorite. Yep.
I was going head to head with that model with these Audio Technica. What was they have a crazy model number. Audio Technica couldn't have made that easy when you do that. But head out to theaverageguy.tv right now, and that link is in the review section. And they're only $125. So as opposed to, I think yours were $299.
Yeah, $269 for the model I have. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I was looking for is, could that work? Could you go, or would they just be junk? And so I bought those, and they come in a nice little carrying case. All the pictures are out at theaverageguy.tv, but they come in a nice carrying case, much like I think you get with the Bose headset, right? A good, hard, sturdy case. You get about so John, like you're wearing now, you get 3 of those that plug into the unit itself. One that has a phone piece on it, one that's just a straight wire, and I think one that's really long. And then you get all the adapters that you need for plane, train, car, whatever. It's a whole adapter set to make it work. And so I took them on 5 trips this last spring. I went to Gainesville. I did a trip to Dallas. I was out to USC. I headed up to Seattle. I did a trip out to Indianapolis. Although the Indianapolis trip was in a car, and I didn't wear them in the car. But made all those trips with them, and they actually they got better the longer I had them. Those I could wear them longer. Those pads began to break in a little bit, weren't so stiff on your ears. And that the Audio Technica, I got a big gigantic melon here. I mean, this is this is like the size of Texas right here. This head of mine. They've just fit, and I got some big monster ears too. They're just getting bigger too, as my dad's ears were huge when he was old. So, and they're hot. I don't know what's going on here. Is there a red there? But it worked. It worked nicely, and it really does help cut out the engine, the airplane engine noise. I listen to tons of podcasts with them. Mike, I'm sure those are things that you use when you travel as well, and are you a podcast listener when you throw those things on?
Oh yeah, there's no better way. And even if you don't have anything playing through them, if you put them on in the airplane, just flip them on, it takes out that whir of the engine, and it's so much easier to fall asleep. So a lot of times I'll put them on without even anything coming through them and do that. But the one interesting thing you just said is you have got the little attachment to have a microphone for the phone. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
See, and the Bose don't come with that, but I can only imagine. I've talked to someone while I had those on, and I'm yelling. I can only imagine what the other person on the other end of the line is thinking.
It's not great. Yeah.
I can't imagine using one of those. But
I did call somebody. So just a quick story. So I'm driving back. I had him with me in Indianapolis, and I was driving back. And so you go across Iowa, and there's nothing in Iowa, right? I mean, there's Des Moines, and then there's nothing, right? And so from Davenport to Omaha, it's just Des Moines. That's all you have, and it's 4 hours. So I'm pulling out of Davenport, and I'm thinking, oh, I had a conference call that I needed to do, and I thought, well, there's nobody out here. I'll throw on these headphones just to test them while I'm driving and take this conference call. And so sure enough, and actually the gal I was talking to was in Germany, which was kind of cool. And so sure enough, I took this call. It was an hour-long phone call. It was super comfortable, and it was super quiet because, of course, I had them in the car. But my car's loud. And it worked great. So I'm like, oh, this works awesome. So then I called. Who did I call? I called somebody in our network here, and I was talking to them. So talking to them about 45 minutes, long enough time that I got into Des Moines, right? And so, you're busy, you're messing with stuff, and all of a sudden I'm in traffic, right? And it looks like I'm going to miss an exit, and so I quick cut over. Well, what I didn't realize, because I was a jackass talking on the phone with headphones on, is I cut somebody off. And this guy pulls up next to me, and I got the finger, and I got, shouting, and I got lip service, and then as I'm looking at him, I can only imagine what I look like looking at him with this big set of headphones
But you didn't
on.
have to hear anything he said. That's the best part. You didn't have to hear his honking his horn. You just got to tune it all out. So
It was yelling bliss in that, and I immediately took the headphones off. I'm like, all right, this was a bad experiment. I should probably not be wearing these in the car while you're driving, but they did work out really well. So if you want to check out that, John, do you use anything like that when you travel?
Yeah, I didn't want to jump in at all because you've done the review, but my wife and I each have Audio-Technica headphones. I'm a former Bose owner. They broke. Didn't want to spend the $300 or $400, whatever the over-the-ear types. And I just on their website, and one of us has the 7Bs that I think you reviewed.
Yeah,
and
I did
one of us,
the ANC 7B. Yep.
Yeah, so I bought those for my wife right before we moved out here, and then I have a pair that looks like they're the ANC 29s that come in a little pouch. But my wife's come in that zip-up case, and I agree with you. I think for quality-wise, I use the Bose for 10 years probably, and these are as good as, and I'm not a terrible audiophile. I listen to way too much heavy metal music in my teens, so my ears aren't that good.
Yeah.
But
mine either.
They're great.
They also, you can't crank them up. You can't crank them out to get them too loud. I think they must have some limiter on there, because I tried cranking them up and you just can't get it really loud, which is probably good that you can't. I couldn't get them too loud. Little switch on the side, easy to get the battery in and out, right? The side just flips, and it's one AA battery, and you just replace it out and in. And so $125, I think they're worth considering. If you're thinking about that, that's a nice entry point to get into for those, and a good way to give it a try. I think they do get better the longer you use them. I got more and more comfortable the longer I had them, on the melon. So
my comment though, Jim, is the same as yours. And I kind of laughed when you said it because I kind of have a big head too. And I kind of wish it had one more notch of give in the extension, because if it wasn't resting on the top of my scalp, it just on a 6-hour flight from the East Coast to the West Coast, you feel that after a little while.
You do. About 2 hours in, I was adjusting them a little bit, and if the flight's warm, it's gonna get warm in there. You're gonna feel that mic. I'm sure the Bose are the same deal. Yeah. If you have them on for a while, they get pretty warm in there.
Yeah. The only complaint I have about those big headphones, they're great and they're fantastic, but I don't take them too many places because you do have to make sure you have the case, put them in the case. They take up a lot of room. One more thing you got to carry when you travel. So I don't actually use them all too often, but when I do use them, I do love it. Pretty much they're my airplane headphones. That's really all I use them for.
Yeah, well, I love the case. I actually carried it around in my backpack for 3 or 4 weeks before I even traveled. I bought them in advance of traveling because I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to have them on hand. And I knew I was going to do 5 weeks of traveling, and I thought I'll have them with me. I can really, because nothing drives me more crazy, and I've probably done this myself, but we don't do anybody a service when we buy something. We try it for a day, and then we write about it, right? That doesn't do anybody any service, and I've done it. I'm sure I have.
Yep.
But with this one, I wanted to, I've got this great opportunity. It's not the hottest product in the world, too, so it's not like it mattered if I waited 10 or 15 days or weeks even to get the review out. So it was one of those things. I threw it in my backpack, and I carry 2 laptops in my backpack. I mean, it's jammed full. And that case showed very little signs of wear after 6 or 7 weeks in my backpack full time, taking it in and out on airplanes. It was just it was so nice to have that case with me. And you can store other things in there as well. So if you have other items that you want to put in there and store, I have a picture of the inside of the case out on the post out at theaverageguy.tv.
I'll have to look at that because it looks like they fold up a little bit smaller than the bows do. Do they fold in as well?
No, they just fold this way. And
okay. So it is.
Slide them up and they fold flat, and then they sit in that case. It's sitting on top of my Surface, so I actually took that picture in the airplane as I was writing. I'd been writing the review as I'd been going, and then I was finishing it on that's actually on the train. So it's on the way back from Seattle to Portland on the train. I'm like, I should get a picture of this. So opened it up on the tray, took a picture. It's sitting on the Surface. So you see it's about as wide as the tray. So here's the Surface. It's about that. So just open, it's a little bit wider than closed. Yeah. It's going to be the size of the headphones.
The hard case is almost exactly the same size as the Bose.
Okay. Good. Yeah. No, not a bad. So if you're thinking about if you do a lot of traveling and you want to go a little bit more budget on those, I've got all the specs available for you out there as well as my pros and cons. I had way more pros than cons. There are some cons. John, what you mentioned. Gets a little rough right here on top of the head, especially if you have a big melon, and so it's after about an hour or two, I need to shift it around a little bit. It was one of those things with the stewardess where they'd be asking me questions. I don't have a clue. I'm like, no, hold on, I gotta take it off. You really can't hear them. These are the 90%. They do sell a 95% noise canceling version that I didn't go with. It's a little like 167 or 180, something like that. And so these were the 90%. The other thing I noticed, neither one of you have glasses, but I do. Of course, you put your headphones over that, it starts pushing those in a little bit, and it can pinch on the nose and stuff. And so I already have a problem. You can see where my glasses that a little bit. So it pushes down on them pretty hard, and so I would have to adjust those a little bit just to make that kind of work. And then they are about a half an ounce heavier than the Bose. So they are. I looked up the specs, and they're just a little, but half an ounce. You really can't tell. So it's not a bad way. So if you're thinking about that, all those details out at theaverageguy.tv, and that was kind of a fun review to do. That was one of those tech scholarship fun things that I just took advantage of for myself. We have funds available for you if you want me to buy you something, you'll use it and then write it up, or come on the show and talk about it. John did that. What did we have you do, John? What was the device?
That was the VCR capture device.
Yeah.
Which,
do you still have it?
I'm still kind of in the middle of it.
That's fine. No, that's fine. We put a post out there. Hey, if anybody wants to use this, let us know and we'll ship it. Nobody did. That's the whole idea with the Tech Scholarship Fund. And be honest, if somebody wanted to use it again, I just buy them another one at this point from that standpoint, because they weren't terribly expensive. But if you got a product that you want to try, you petition me, we'll try and buy that for you. We'd like it to be around $100 and in there, and then just so there's money for other people as well. And you can try it, test it, and I'd really like you to test it. That's the thing. I don't want you to buy it and review it on the first day. Really run that thing through its paces. Then we'll have you back on the show, and when you're done, you get to keep it. And it's a great, and that's my way of saying thanks for using the Average Guy Tech Scholarship Fund out at theaverageguy.tv/Amazon. Gentlemen, let me bring this in for a landing. I know, John, you got to get going, so let me wrap this up real quick and we'll let you go. We want to tell folks as well, we have a cool new newsletter we're doing monthly. If you kind of want to know what's going on in my life a little bit, maybe just a paragraph that I write each month, head out to theaverageguy.tv and look for the subscription link in the upper right-hand corner. Give us your email. That's all we need. I won't spam you, I promise. You just get a newsletter from me once a month. If you don't follow me on social networks, that's a great way to keep up with what's going on in the network. I try to keep up to date with that during the month, and then I just send that out. This month we got a little late because of Summit, but great opportunity for you. About 50 of you have joined the newsletter, and if you want to get that, just give us your email out there at theaverageguy.tv, and I promise I will not spam you. And then if you're a podcaster, aspiring podcaster, you're thinking about podcasting. Actually, Mike did a nice job on his show last week, the last half of it, talking about podcasting. And so if you're wondering about that, a lot of you guys, you've been listening to me for a long time, so you know the deal on that. But we do a show, Dave Jackson and myself do a show on Saturday mornings called Ask the Podcast Coach. It's just the most fun show that I do all week, and I really enjoy it. 9:30 Central, 10 Eastern, out at AskThePodcastCoach.com. We just talk about podcasting. It's not for everybody, so don't feel like you have to go out there. But if you're thinking about that, we just have a great time. Mike, I know you're starting to show up out there on Saturday mornings as well. Good to have you out there.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I'll remind you, if you haven't, give Mike's podcast a try. Open Mic Night out at WeagerTech.com, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes as well. And so, Mike, thanks for taking a few minutes to hang out with me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a blast.
You bet. John, it was great to see you again. Good luck as you keep continuing to move on. We'll try and bring you back around in the spring sometime and catch up with you. If I ask you to come back on, would you do that again?
Absolutely. It's been really a lot of fun.
You bet. And maybe you can report back with a new microphone and we can.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No. You know what? It's absolutely fine. We talked about that up front, so no problems at all. We are live each and every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central. Well, 50 out of 52 Thursday nights. 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out at theaverageguy.tv/live. We'd love to have you join us. There's a great chat room and a bunch of great guys that are out there. If you've never joined us live, pick one night during the holidays. Don't pick Thanksgiving because we won't be live. Actually, this year we won't be live on Thanksgiving or Christmas because Christmas falls on a Thursday, so we'll take that day off. But pick one of those nights. Come out and join us live. We have a great time. And with that, we'll say goodnight. We'll do some after show. We'll do some post-show stuff. But thanks for listening, everybody. Good night.